I'm Mathew Kerbis, the subscription attorney, and this is Law Subscribed, your dedicated source for all things subscriptions and the law. Thank you to my sponsors. See links to them in the show notes. Everything discussed is only for educational and entertainment purposes. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to a bonus episode between A Different Practice and Law Subscribed. Well, while this doesn't squarely fit into how to run a law firm in 2025, I still hope that the listeners of the series that enjoyed that will enjoy this, because now I, the subscription attorney, Mathew Kerbis, referring to myself for the second time in this co-hosting thing in the third person, will talk to Lauren Lester and figure out how she's using the subscription model in her business already, how she's used it in the past, things that she's thought about, and hopefully provide some useful ideas and strategies for how Lauren can take her subscription legal services to the next level. I like to call this subscription therapy. Lauren, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm excited and a little nervous, but I'm excited.
All right. Well, just start, to begin with, and every jurisdiction is different, right? But like if I actually were working with somebody to try to figure out how do subscriptions, how could we make them work in your jurisdiction, is we'd look at the ethical rules on fees, right? And so I already know, because of you talking about this in the, like and if you're already on fixed fee, you could probably do subscription in your jurisdiction, because a subscription is just a recurring fixed fee. It's just, how are you defining your subscription benefits for what they're paying, right? And is it reasonable, right? Is what it comes down to. And by the way, I say this in the intro to every Law Subscribed episode, but no legal advice is being given if you're listening in, or to you, Lauren, right? It's all for educational purposes only. So with that caveat, though, the way I understand it is you have to have all funds go into a client trust fund account first, and then you could transfer it into your operating account or your savings, wherever you transfer that to. So tell me a little bit more, so I have more context about the mechanism of what actually allows you. Is it just when it becomes an earned fee, and how you define that? Like when can you transfer that from the client trust fund?
Yes, when it becomes earned. And my understanding is that is just defined between you and the client. So in Colorado, for any flat fee, we have to have milestones, whether it's a one-time flat fee or it's a recurring flat fee. So it's really just defining what that milestone is, and it has to be reasonable. So it can't be, if it's a month-long subscription, I earn it on day 2. So it has to sort of make sense and be reasonable for what the person is getting. For me, on the one subscription that I have, which is for coaching for mostly family law clients, I offer it across the board, even for probate, but they don't take advantage of it. But sometimes folks just have questions, or how do I deal with this, or what are my options here? It's on a 30-day cycle. So they get a phone call, unlimited access, and then every 30 days, whether they use it or not, I was available for them should they wanted to take the opportunity to take advantage of it. And then it gets earned at the 30-day mark, and then they'll get recharged for the next month, and then they can cancel it anytime. So yes, under our ethics rules, it just has to be reasonable and earned.
Yeah. And I think for lawyers who've been practicing for a long time, just that being available is almost more of that traditional retainer model, right? Where they pay you a certain amount a month, a quarter, a year, and you are available. And at least even in Illinois, under our revised Rule 1.5, that traditional retainer is in there, and that counts as an earned fee. It's like the one exception to the rest of the rules where you have to refund if a fee is not earned. No, it says that type of true retainer is actually earned upon receipt, which is really cool that Illinois allows it, and really scary for me. Like, I don't want to necessarily, like, how do I know, like, it's actually a true retainer? Like, because it's not like a traditional retainer where I charge a boatload of money and I'm available. Like, my monthly subscriptions can be so low that I'm still under the category, I opt into the category of recurring fixed fee, and I want to be applied as a fixed fee on a monthly basis. Now, one of the things for me anyway, that I've run into is I find that even, it depends at your level though, and like what you're charging for the coaching, is when I'm charging $20 a month, they're getting access. It's not necessarily availability, right? They're getting access. What are they getting access to? They're getting access to schedule a 15-minute call, unlimited amount of calls that they could schedule in which I'm available that month. They're getting access to the rest of my pricing, which is below market fixed fees or a per page pricing, which no other lawyer really offers except for maybe 2 or 3 other ones that have copied my model. And that's it. And they're getting access to subscription add-ons, right? And access to my portal and other knowledge-based stuff that, I haven't done a great job of being robust. But any one of those things, in my opinion, is worth, just getting access to them is worth the $20 a month. And so that's the approach I've taken. Now, for my bigger business clients, arguably, if they're paying like $1,000 or $2,000 or something a month, and they only use one out of their 5 or 10 projects, they're probably already getting the value once they've used that project, right? So if I was in Colorado, I would think, well, at that moment, if I wanted to, I could probably transfer the money, because even just that one project, because I've unbundled all my legal services, and I know if I were to charge them per page, they would have paid more than what they're paying every month anyway, kind of a thing. And at that point, I could transfer it. But it's really interesting if they're just getting access. So I wonder, instead of, or being available, would you feel comfortable with Colorado, instead of it being an available subscription where you're available for them if they need it, that they just getting access to schedule the calls, that access level would be enough for you to not have to transfer? Or has it not really been an issue for you? And have you automated the transferring from IOLTA into your operating account?
Yeah, it hasn't been an issue. It's not automated. It's probably the one thing, I was just talking to my husband about this yesterday, in my business that I probably will never automate because it makes me nervous. That transfer from trust to operating, it's something I will never outsource. And I do it manually because I triple, quadruple, 5 times check it. But it takes a minute and a half. I mean, it's not something that takes a ton of time. And I like being able to go, Sally's subscription ran up on the 5th. On the 6th, I take it out. Her new subscription that's fine. I don't mind that manual nature of it, but I'll just do it once the month rolls around.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so that is definitely an impediment, right? To to launching a subscription, because you're going to have to do all this manual work. So imagine if you had all the clients that you currently, have on a subscription. Something that I've seen a lot of success with estate planning lawyers in particular, is an annual subscription. Have you considered something like that?
I would love to do it. So I feel like my biggest challenge is I do not have practice areas that need ongoing work. Like business makes sense, right? Like as long as you own the business, you probably need some help. I know even in Illinois with your crazy family law process that y'all have up there, that they're 2-year-long cases. So it makes sense because there's this sort of long runway. But here in Colorado, whether it's probate or even the uncontested case, right, they're 3 months. So it doesn't like that. I don't have that long runway. So that's what I've always struggled with, is there's not a natural ongoingness to it. And so I would love with estate planning, I would love with my probate, maybe. That's where I'm always like, I don't know what I would do for these folks, like ongoing. But yeah, I would love it if that would make it work.
So estate planning could be a little bit easier. And with probate, I don't necessarily know enough about it. Family law, I actually do know enough about now that I actually think you could have a great ongoing subscription. And maybe this is where your coaching could come into play and it'd be more useful than anything else. And that is post-marital settlement agreement, post-divorce decree, they need to comply, right? Like there is compliance until the kids are grown. If they have young children, there's compliance forever if there's, alimony, support, whatever you call it in your jurisdiction, right? And so even a de minimis amount, right? Something where they're not afraid to call you, but they're already paying it, but they're comfortable with it. And if, different people's financial situations are all different, so you'd have to tier it accordingly. And you want to have at least good, better, best pricing in the sense that like somebody who just might have a couple of questions a year even. And for the smaller the subscription, you can make it an annual subscription, right? But just that compliance post-divorce decree, post-marital settlement agreement, like where they have look, your ex-spouse now is going to do something that's probably going to mess it up, or you might want to do something and you're not sure if you could legally do it according to those things. I think that's a great ongoing subscription post the divorce. And that's what I've been encouraging family law attorneys to say, well, I can never do it, during the actual process. Of course, you've fixed feed it when you were doing that. But I'm like, well, how about afterwards? And like that seems to really resonate with family law attorneys. Is that something like have you done something like that? Have you tried that?
I have years ago, for clients where they would have at a pretty low price point. I guess just that level of access to be able to ask questions, because you're absolutely right. Something is going to come up. They're not just going to get divorced, and especially if they have kids and like never have another issue. And so I have one client who's done it forever. I mean, I adore her, and she's probably been doing it for 3 or 4 years with me. And she just likes having the peace of mind that if something comes up, I'm there. I already know her case. We can jump right back in. But I didn't find it very popular with the rest of my clients. And I don't know if it's because I didn't market it well, or I didn't have the right messaging, or they were just like, I'm done with a divorce attorney. Like, this is not an ongoing thing I want to think about. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, I struggled with getting folks on board. And now I almost wonder, is it touching too much of the contested space that I'm trying to get away from? But I can definitely see for family law attorneys who are totally in it that would make a lot of sense, because there's always something.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a good question, and that would ultimately be up to a client. And I have these conversations with clients too, where they want me to maybe help them with some litigation related things on the side, or try to settle something pre-dispute, but it's kind of close to needing to be filed anyway. And I'm like, you might just want to hire a lawyer who actually could go to court for you. And so in that kind of situation, if you're not willing to also go to court and file something as part of the subscription if you needed to, then that's probably not a good fit for that kind of market. But I have to imagine, even for people who paid other lawyers and they don't want to go back to that billable hour attorney when something happens post-divorce, to have an attorney on subscription just post-divorce, I think there's an incredible market opportunity there, right? And even if that attorney partners with other lawyers to actually go to court and do the filing of stuff, to be there, like one of my benefits is I help my clients avoid actually having to file a formal dispute. So it's not like dispute resolution in the typical sense. It's just like dispute avoidance. And my clients are happily subscribed to me, and the business clients, to like, well, okay, something happens, or a landlord, there's an issue with the tenant. Like, let's resolve this. I don't actually ever file an eviction case. I refer that out. And so I wonder if there is an opportunity there. But yeah, I don't know. There might be like, if there's a marital settlement agreement where they settled, that's a type of subscription. If it was a divorce decree, maybe you don't even take those, as potential clients, because it would probably be contested. For the estate planning, what I've seen done is just an annual subscription. So I guess for Colorado, you'd have to hold on to it for a year.
Yep.
And then transfer it at the year. So that's kind of a bummer for that jurisdiction. But nevertheless, what you could do is, like, if a client were to come to you and they said, "Oh, I had grandkids, or I had kids, and I want to update my estate plan," like how would you charge them for an update for something like that?
So I would just do it on a flat fee, depending on what the scope of the update was, like whether it's one provision or we just need to redo the whole thing. Yeah, whatever it is, I kind of get a sense of it, and then they just get a flat fee.
Right. And so what you could do is you can say, if you do this annual subscription, what it is you're prepaying, so that in 1 year from now we're going to have a meeting on the calendar, and we're going to meet, and we're going to go over all of what's happened in the last year, and if we need to make a change, it's a 10% discount on that, on the fixed rate that I would have given you previously, right? So it incentivizes them to meet with you again, which they should probably do anyway, and you should be following up with them anyway, but they're prepaying for that consultation, so they actually show up. Even my cleaners that I use, like other cleaners, it used to be you pay when you pick up your clothes. The cleaners I use makes me pay the moment I drop them off, because they just charge a fixed amount per item, because that incentivizes you show up and pick up your clothes. You've already paid.
Smart. Yep.
Right? So they're going to show up because they've already paid, and they're not going to get into the nuance of attorney ethics and all that stuff, right? And then the other subscriber benefit is they get a discount on any services offered at that if they need it at that meeting. And they might not need anything. Nothing's happened. And that's tier level 1. For tiers 2 and 3, you could have quarterly meetings. You could have annual, or you could have monthly meetings, right? So or you could do biannual or quarterly. You don't have to necessarily do monthly. It depends on the person's net worth, what they're doing. Are they acquiring a bunch of properties? Like, what are they doing that would require monthly meetings? There's very few people. Those would certainly never be my clients, Lauren. I don't know if they'd ever be your clients.
Yeah, probably not. I like the quarterly as the minimum.
Yeah. Well, I would say the maximum, right? So like, the way that I'm thinking about it is tier 1 is like, and we're just making up numbers here, $100 annually. and we meet once a year from today, and you get whatever, 5% discount, 10% discount on the services. Tier 2, right? Middle tier, $250. But we're going to meet twice a year, and you're going to get a slightly better discount, right, than what the tier 1 discount is if we actually need to do anything. Tier 3 is we're going to meet quarterly, and it's going to be $1,000, right? Because you want your biggest, you're going to really plus this, right? Because we're meeting 4 times a year, and you're going to get the best discount. And those are just 2 benefits, right? The benefits being how many times we meet and the discount on services. But maybe they could also, if they have something come up in the meantime, they could schedule a call with you, and that's just part of the annual subscription. And arguably, the moment they take advantage of that one call, if it's only like $100 for the minimum level, you could probably transfer it at that point. It's an earned fee. And you could just explain that in your agreement, that like the moment you take advantage of any of the subscriber benefits, it's an earned fee, and you're also still entitled to the remainder of those benefits during the term. What do you think about an estate planning subscription like that?
I like it. My brain is going to what more value can I provide that I am not involved directly with? Because I feel like maybe with my clients, I would need to beef it up a little bit, although maybe not. Maybe I should just try it and see if folks are into it. But I think I get a lot of people, especially in estate planning, it tips a little bit into just financial planning, investments, a little like kids. How do I plan for kids? Just budgeting, like, right. They're all sort of in the same pot. I don't necessarily want to become an expert or learn about that, but I'm wondering, like, is there a way that I could add that sort of value to just give people more information that would be included, especially in those higher levels?
Yeah, I mean, in that sort of an instance, what you could do possibly is you could partner with like a financial planner person, and you could come up with this content that they only get access to if they become an annual subscriber. Right. And like that makes me think of post getting somebody off but on probation subscription plan, which I've talked about with some people, whereas, okay, you get them on probation and now you have how to comply with your probation program. That's part of your subscription. So yes, they could call you. That's part of the subscription. But also here's all these materials on how do you comply with your probation. So I wonder if you could do a content type thing where it's kind of like create it and it's there and you made it once. And you update it, and maybe you make it in partnership with a financial planner or a financial advisor. And, I'm sure they love to do it because it's cross-marketing for them. But only your annual subscribers get access to those materials. And that could be a third benefit, is you get access to all this educational material, which you'd have to come up with. But with AI and with the right partner, I think you could probably come up with that content. And that's a third pillar, a third subscriber benefit. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, how you'd execute that is a whole other story. I heard of a lawyer. He was like a PI attorney, and I can't remember which one he uses, but he uses like, Teachable or like one of these course creator platforms. And he doesn't even charge it's just an expense for him, because the moment a new client comes in, they take the courses on like Teachable or whatever, Kajabi, whatever one of these, platforms are. And like, that's how this personal injury firm is leveraging a tool like that. Genius.
Smart.
Yeah. So something like that even maybe, right? And maybe depending on what the cost is to subscribe to a Teachable, Kajabi, or one of these platforms, that will help inform how much you need to charge for this benefit. And I think just having that information available to them. And something else that like I'm trying to experiment with right now, putting all that information into like a Notebook LM Pro and giving access to that notebook that they could then query against could be huge.
Yes,
right?
I did hear that recently on a podcast. Somebody was talking, they were like a coach, and they've been a coach for 10 years in business, and he created like a custom GPT of all of his like coaching transcripts and podcasts, and now he sells that to like pick his brain. And I was like, ooh, that gave me a lot of idea juices flowing.
Yeah, and maybe that's a subscriber benefit. If you're an annual subscriber. And maybe the way to handle it, so it's sort of, if they get access to that knowledge base or the access to that thing right away, I mean, arguably, I think it's an earned fee, like the moment they first interface with it, and they still get all the other benefits, right? So like when you're allowed to transfer it, and look, like we're operating in the gray zone here. It's not, there are lawyers who do what I do, fractional GC on subscription, and they'll represent clients from anywhere. I'm not willing to operate in that gray zone. So I could appreciate like not wanting to do something in a gray zone and just transferring it at the end of the year. But I wonder if that's the benefit. Maybe you set up the subscription so it's a monthly or quarterly subscription that gets automatically, withdrawn and deposited into the trust fund account. But then at the end of that quarter, at the end of that month, maybe only only after the fourth payment, they get that meeting, right? If it's a quarterly subscription. But for the first 3 quarters, they do get access to the other benefits. Call you if there's a question, access to the knowledge base, query against the knowledge base, that kind of a thing. And at least that way you're able to put some of that money away, during that time. And for those subscribers who stay subscribed into the fourth quarter, they get the annual meeting at any time during that fourth quarter, something like that. So at least then it's not literally a full year that you have to wait, right? And maybe you let people take advantage of that additional meeting whenever they want during that period. They just have to make sure that that's, that it's identified that that's when it's redeemed, that's when it's paid for. And they just get the one if that's all they're paying for. And you let them subscribe up, right? You want more meetings, but you wanted to meet, 6 months in, then we could move you up to tier 2. So then within the next 6 months, we could have a second meeting if we need to.
I like it. I got some ideas.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the brand new sponsor for Law Subscribed, Paxton. I've been using Paxton as my legal AI tool for over 2 years. I continue to evaluate and demo other legal AI tools in the market and still decide to stick with Paxton because of its reliability, its accuracy, its ease of use, affordability, and they do not lock you into a long-term contract. Now, as a transactional and fractional general counsel attorney, I'm using Paxton for all of my substantive and non-substantive legal work, whether that's legal research, analysis, drafting, or enhancing existing legal work product. In the time it used to take me to draft and analyze legal documents, now, after a little bit of back and forth with Paxton, I have something ready to go in minutes that used to take hours or even days. While I'm no longer a litigator, I could see how valuable Paxton would be when researching a new issue, preparing for a deposition, drafting a motion, or going to trial. So if your firm would benefit from using Paxton as your legal AI tool, then make sure to use the link in the description when signing up to let Paxton know I sent you. That's all about our new sponsor. Now back to the show. And look, you said you're using LawPay, right?
Yes, I use LawPay for subscription billing. Yep.
Yeah. So I've used Confido Legal. I know you could set that up and that you could set that kind of thing up in Confido Legal. I have to imagine you could do the same thing in LawPay.
Yeah, the recurringness of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how often it recurs.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's all customizable.
Totally. So the mechanics of it are easy to do if you're using the right technology, which you are. Yeah. I mean, any other sort of ideas or questions you have about that kind of a thing?
No, I love it. Yeah, it's got the creative juices flowing. So I just have to kind of sit down and think about what would be included. I definitely think it could work for estate planning. Probate's a little bit of a question mark, but maybe. But it gives me sort of ideas to try and apply to the other practice areas.
Now the question is, what do you call it?
I know. Oh, God. ChatGPT, come help me.
Well, okay. So it's Lester Law, right?
Yeah.
And it's mylifelawyer.com.
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to play with something like with your law firm or my life? There's something there, right? Like something maybe like life related because it's estate planning and it's your life. And also the domain might be available, Lauren, if you come up with like something like in that vein. And you could call it, you could call it silver, gold, platinum. You could call it, basic, super, premium, something like that. Like there's all different things you could call it. And if you just have 2, you could call it whatever you decide to call it. And then the second version is a plus at the end. That's what I'm doing. My business level subscribers and my business plus level subscribers. Because you're plussing it, you get everything. So maybe you just do the twice a year and the 4 times a year plans. So whatever you decide to call it. But if you had any ideas off the top of your head, we could have ping ponged back and forth. But
no, I'm the worst at that.
A great partner. AI is a great partner for something like that.
Yes. No, that is not my strong suit. The creativity of naming.
Any other things that are preventing you from using subscription more in the way that you deliver the legal service?
I think the biggest one is honestly the mindset of just it doesn't feel like it would fit, but I just need to broaden what I think about. Even at estate planning, I think it could be something similar potentially for my prenup clients, right? They're starting this new phase in their life. especially from that like financial angle, and making sure that everything is up to date. Oftentimes, right, they get married and then they have kids, and so estate planning sort of naturally flows after that. So I think I just need to think about it more broadly and not be so married to it's has to be time based. Like the work that needs to be done has to be over a long period of time necessarily, but just more thinking about it. How do I keep the relationship going? It's just a mindset shift.
Yeah, yeah. And right now for probate anyway, it's just a fixed fee and it's 3 months, you said, and then it's over.
Oh no, that's the short end of a divorce in Colorado. So
Oh,
usually
okay.
probate is like 6 to 12 months. But there's just not, it's like up and down in terms of work. But yes, it's just a flat fee and we cover it. And I do again uncontested, so it's pretty like routine and systematic.
And then it's a they pay you all up front, or they pay you in payment plans, or it's all up front.
It's usually all up front. Some folks do take advantage of payment plans, but most people will just do it up front.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, for cases that don't take a long time. I mean, look, I also know a business defense attorney who they figure out what the business's annual budget is for this litigation, and they divide it by 12 because they could probably resolve it in a year. And if they don't, it continues into year two at that amount. But I don't know enough about probate in Colorado to come up with a subscription plan. If you've identified a great fixed fee, I mean, there's nothing there. You don't just want to add subscription just to add subscription if you can't plus it and find additional benefits. And again, I mean, probate could happen at any time. And if somebody takes advantage of an estate plan that includes a trust, you could largely avoid probate. But I wonder if there's something there where you can offer some kind of probate benefit if they've done an estate plan with you and they are subscribed, right? Because that one can flow into the other, in particular, if they don't do a trust. Do you offer estate plans that don't include a trust?
Yep. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, it kind of depends on the client's goals, where they're at in life, but definitely happens. It feels odd. The first thing I thought about is I work with these like younger folks to sort of say like, you're 35, so when you die and we're going to actually need this will that we're putting together in, 50 years, maybe I won't even be around. But yes, I see where you're going. It just maybe it's not for every client, but definitely I do have some either get really younger who are starting families or older folks who haven't done it. And I think they're probably more in that target market of thinking a little bit more long term that this may be needed sooner.
Yeah. So for me, I also do real estate. And I've found that for the older clients, or in particular for clients who have older parents, sometimes I'm brought in by the kids who are like in their 60s, for their parents who are in their 80s and 90s. And then that parent becomes a client of mine. So we could set up a simple trust and estate plan so that we could avoid probate because they're not going to be here forever. And then part of it is when is transferring that house that they own, that home, into the trust, and then eventually doing the closing for that family. And so looking at real estate as another opportunity that's related to wrapping up an estate on behalf of a family, lawyers just do real estate and there's good money there. But for me, since I'm helping them of all these stages, I do make them subscribe at $20 a month to become a client of the firm, and then give them access to these below market flat fee rates to do all of the estate planning and real estate work for them. And so that's how I've chosen to tackle it. Because really, I could probably just add $100 or $200 to everything and take away my $20 a month, because they're only going to stay subscribed for a few months possibly anyway. Unless, then the parent, deceases and then the kids stay subscribed. So and I'm available for things happen at work and other things. And so I'm just selling that availability at the $20 a month more so than anything else whenever another legal thing comes up. So if you're doing tax, if you're doing estate planning, and if you could add real estate into that, there might just be hey, become a client of the firm low-level subscription that just gets people in the door. And then whenever they have a legal problem, they're coming to you because it's part of their low-tier monthly subscription.
Right. A lot of food for thought.
Real estate's not complicated, Lauren.
Oh my God, I can't. Another practice area? Oh my God.
Here's the thing. For all lawyers out there, it's, at least in Illinois, it is almost always the exact same contract for residential real estate. So I remember as a newbie lawyer, I took one like all day seminar on learning everything about this contract and what could go wrong with it. And even still, there's updates every single year, and I'll take a 1 hour CLE for all the updates to the form contract that we use in Illinois for like 99% of residential real estate transactions. So you do one closing, it's the same contract for all of them. Now, I've only had a handful of them where the as is clause is like leveraged, right? Or like certain clauses aren't always used, but it's in the form contract, so I'm aware of them, right? But it's the same letters back and forth asking for changes based upon what the inspection report says. Like, I don't know, I've done almost 100 closings in like 10 years of practice because it's not been my main focus. And, every dozen or so closings, there's like a new thing that hasn't happened before. But it's not something that is like rocket science and you can't figure it out. You put the money in escrow, and then you see what happens because everybody just wants to sell and buy the house. Like working on a deal, Lauren, where everybody that's part of the transaction wants it to happen, things happen, it closes. And it's not, it's important. And I understand why some jurisdictions don't require lawyers because it's not necessarily rocket science. But compliance with the contract is super important from the moment that it gets signed to the moment that you close, and even for some post-closing stuff. But there's a reason we only charge I only charge $450 for buying or selling on top of the $20 a month. So it ends up being, if it closes in 2 months, like about $490, right? That's still below market, but it's the easiest work in the world once you learn how to do it, and it's important. I mean, they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. You are a small line item in that transaction, and probably the most important part as far as like the legal, absolutely like the most important part to comply with the contract and that they don't get taken advantage of. So it's a no-brainer for clients to pay that amount. And it's like I said, it's not rocket science. And if you have 3 practice areas, Lauren, that and somebody
like
wants
kids.
Somebody wants to take advantage of all 3. Having a subscription that gives them access to all 3 is another subscription opportunity that at least you should think about. And for 2 practice areas, maybe if they care about their estate planning, maybe, I don't know if the tax stuff you do is the tax stuff you do more, like they had a problem, or it's more avoiding tax problems.
It's they owe money and they need to figure out how they're going to pay the money. So beyond the problem. Yes, that's it. Yes, there's not a dispute about the amount. It's no, this is the amount. Just how am I going to pay this? And what are my options?
And so like negotiating with the IRS for them. Is that basically what it is?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that is brutal.
That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've never even thought about tax law. So that is not an area I want to ever have to deal with. No, thank you.
I love it, man. My brain is wired oddly. It's just very systematic. I think that's what I've learned about all my practice areas that I love is like, as long as there's a system to it and a process, I am there.
So is it regardless of how much they owe, you charge the same amount, or do you charge it based on the value of how much they owe?
It's based on the resolution option. So like how they are going to resolve the debt, whether it's like a payment plan, whether they are going to try and make an offer and compromise to like have some of it wiped out because they ultimately will never be able to pay it, whether the payment plan is one of 3 types. So it depends on the resolution option, not on necessarily how much they owe, but the 2 of them are going to be hand in hand because not every option applies to every amount owed.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Look, if they ended up in that place in the first place, that's tough.
Yeah.
That is tough. Yeah. Yeah. And if they don't have the money to pay their taxes, it's complicated, right? Because maybe they did have the money to pay their taxes and they just didn't do it. Yeah. I'm racking my brain trying to figure out, is there some sort of ongoing service to provide? But really, you find them you help them reach a resolution. I don't know. Hey, let's prevent this from ever happening again. But that's more like a CPA than it is a lawyer.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's sort of that tangential, like you still have to stay in compliance. So you need to go find a tax person to do your taxes every year. That is not me. So yeah, there's all those sort of like your point about the financial planner, right? They touch each other, but I don't necessarily want to cross the line. But if I could partner with some folks, I think that gives a more comprehensive solution to the client.
Yeah. Yeah. I did have one guest on my podcast. I think his name was Martin Johnson, and he is a CPA and he got his law license. So I think he could even like with his CPA firm and his estate planning and tax planning firm. And as long as there's disclosures, and all that stuff, he is able to offer a subscription to be able to say you get access to all this. I think that was his plan the last time we talked about that. So I guess but you don't want to go and become a CPA, Lauren. That's
Oh
too
my
much.
God. If I told my husband I was going for another level of education, I probably wouldn't have a husband. So no, I'm good. I'm good with my JD. I don't need any more credentials.
No, me neither. Have you considered though, or have you had clients who have wanted to put their home in the trust, and do you help them with that deed, or do you have to find another lawyer to get them to deed the home into the trust?
So most of my clients choose to do it by beneficiary deed. So they don't want to do it during their lifetime. They want to keep it individual, but they want to make sure it goes into the trust upon their passing. So I will do the beneficiary deed and record that with the county. The other deeds, like a quitclaim deed or anything like that, I have not done. I don't get the impression they're super difficult. So I probably could learn and partner up with somebody for a little bit to get my feet under me, but I just haven't had the need yet. But maybe that's sort of the expansion, is offering those ancillary services.
Yeah, and I even unbundle it from the actual cost of the trust, because let's be real, not everybody owns a house, but they might want one of the simple revocable trusts that I offer. Yep. And so for that type of instance, for me, there's 2 more pages, so it's $50 a page, so it's another $100 for me to draft the warranty deed. And the second page is really usually just the legal description. So it's not complicated pages. And what you could do, Lauren, or any attorney listening, is you could find a local title company, which you'd have to go through as the sell side attorney anyway. Because what I do is I just partner with this title company, and they do the recording for me, and they invoice the client separately for that fee, for the recording fee, and for their service for doing it. And they make sure the deed is good before it goes out for signature. And so finding that partner that you could also give business to, who will help, review stuff for you, that's a huge win. Finding that local title company. And there's big ones, there's Chicago Title here in Illinois. That's a big title company. I use a smaller business because I myself am a small business. So I like to support local. And they're a smaller local one that all the underwriting for the closings is still done through a Chicago Title. But they're able to offer some additional services on top and lower their fee and all that stuff because it's not a big giant corporation. So yeah, find a local title company and use Perplexity to find a local title company that has a good review and good reputation, right? And see if they want to work with you on stuff like that. Because then you don't have to go record the thing.
Right.
Your client could pay for it, directly through the title company, or you could have an agreement with the title company where you charge your client the amount and you reimburse the title company for their thing, whatever you decide to do. But yeah, dipping your toes in that world, because it's so related, real estate and estate planning, that it's not really a huge stretch. Take a CLE on the real estate thing. Because yeah, eventually, being in the estate planning world, you're going to have a client who wants to sell their house. And then what are they going to do, right? Or they're selling it. I don't even know how the beneficiary deed thing will work if they decide to sell their home necessarily.
Yeah, it just doesn't apply anymore.
How that affects the title though. Do you have to withdraw it? Do you have to, because I don't even give that as an option. We're going to have to record a deed anyway. We might as well just fully deed it to the trust. And look, Illinois law is different than Colorado law. So I don't know, there might be something about Colorado law that there's a reason to do that instead. But because I was pulled into estate planning in part because of real estate related stuff. So I came in from the other direction, where people who already had a trust wanted to transfer it in. So then I kind of had to learn about trusts. That was the first thing that brought me into that world. Yeah. And look, you don't have to use subscription. I don't want folks to think you have to use it, but I do think there are benefits. I think even a de minimis amount just for clients to get access could work really well for you if you had additional services on top of the estate planning for those particular clients. Those seem like the best clients to do subscription on.
Yeah, I agree. No, you gave me a ton of food for thought. I'll have to see what I can come up with and put down.
Yeah, so that's it. Unless there's any more questions you have or ideas you want to run by me or anything.
No, this was so great. I so appreciate your walking through it with me.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's the bonus episode for Lauren and I doing this joint series thing, and yeah, it was fun.
It was so fun. I loved every second.
Well, in 6 months we'll have you back and we'll see if you've done anything subscription wise.
Yeah, hold my feet to the fire, man. Yeah, I got to come up with something.
All right. Well, that's it. That we already had our emotional send off in the previous episode. So that concludes subscription therapy. Thanks everybody for listening in. And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Make someone's day by sharing this episode with them. The best way to get in touch is to follow and message me on LinkedIn. To get extra content, subscribe to the newsletter at www.lawsubscribe.com, where you can also become a paid subscriber to get episodes and content early. Until next time, this is Mathew Kerbis with Law Subscribed.